So, good afternoon once again, everyone. Welcome to Popeye. The first thing that I will mention this afternoon is that we are on the River Torrens today. But we generally refer to this part of the Torrens as Lake Torrens. That's because of the weir up around the corner that we're going to see in a few moments' time. The weir regulates the water level in this part of the Torrens, basically turning it into a lake, and that allows recreational boating, like Popeye, to take place in this area. Other boating that is popular includes the paddle boats. You can see them moored over there on the left. We've just received those new paddle boats. The paddle boats have been here for over 50 years, but those ones there are brand new. We only received them about a month ago, so that's very exciting. They're largely available for hire over the weekends and on the over school holidays. The ochre and grey colours of that building up there on the left-hand side are meant to represent the outback colours of the Flinders Ranges here in South Australia. The Flinders are about 5 hours north of us here in town. They're named after Matthew Flinders. He was the first person to chart the waters here in South Australia in the early 1800s. Then we've got the Moffat Street Bridge in front of us here. It was built back in 1968 and replaced the Queen Victoria Bridge. It was here prior to that. So we were established back in 1836 here in South Australia, quite late in the scheme of things, nearly 50 years after Sydney was first settled. And we were a free settler state. We weren't convict settled like most of the states in the country, and that of course makes us a slightly higher class of person here in South Australia. Ask any local, I'm sure they'll agree, but I guess like most places, there were the haves and have-nots in early Adelaide, and this area on the left here was a shanty town for many years back in settlement. More recently, over the last 10 to 15 years, a medical precinct has been built up on the left-hand side, built mostly over the old freight rail yards that were there previously. And there are a couple of buildings up here on the left that I'll mention to you this afternoon. The first one, which is about to come into view, is the SAMRI building. SAMRI stands for South Australian Health and Medical Research Institute. But here in Adelaide, we just call it the cheese grater for obvious reasons, up there through the trees. And the other building I'll mention once again, up through the trees on the left, is the Royal Adelaide Hospital, which was completed back in 2014. You'll see that as we continue up here on the left. Up in front of us in the distance, you might notice the white building there. That is home to two restaurants, upstairs the Red Oak Grill and downstairs the River Cafe. And on the left-hand side of that, up ahead of us, is the weir that I mentioned a little bit earlier. It was built back in 1929, and the deepest part of the Torrens is just this side of the weir, where it reaches about 7 metres in depth. Then as we turn around up there in a moment, you'll notice a big drop down to the river on the far side of the weir of about 10 metres. And then the river runs 13 kilometres from here all the way down to the coast. All of these fish are here because, all of these birds are here because there are fish here in the lake. Unfortunately, the most common fish species is a European carp, which is an introduced species here in the Torrens. So we're going to turn around here, and for safety reasons, I'm not allowed to get too close to the weir because of the big drop off here, but I will get as close as I can to give you a bit of a view. And you are welcome to stand up and have a look out through the left-hand windows. So this part of the Torrens was called the Possum Place by the local Kaurna people. It was a popular meeting spot and camping site prior to European settlement. Now, the Kaurna people called the River Torrens area Karrawirra Parri, and that translates as the Red Gum Forest River. As I mentioned a moment ago, this building on the left is home to 2 restaurants. It's also home to our gondola here in Adelaide. You might notice it parked at the bottom of the platform there. We used to have 2, we're down to 1 now, and that's available for hire. It is an authentic gondola, all the way from Venice in Italy. You'd probably imagine the driver's name would be Mario or Giuseppe, but it's actually Roger. So many people ask how the name Popeye came about. We have been out here on the lake since 1935, and at that stage the owners were looking for a name for their new boats. What they decided to do was to hold a school competition, asking school kids what a good name for the boats would be. Popeye was the popular choice, but before they could call the boats by that name, they had to get permission from Warner Brothers in the United States, because they had the registered ownership of the name Popeye. So a few telegrams were exchanged, an agreement was reached, and we've been Popeye ever since. These current boats have been in operation since the 1980s, and they were christened back then by the then Prime Minister Malcolm Fraser and his wife Tammy. There are 3 boats in the fleet these days. We're on Popeye I today. We will see the other 2 boats a little bit later on our cruise this afternoon. Now the blackbirds you can see on the tree here on the left are cormorants. Also got a pelican here. This photo was taken back in 1954, and it's a photo of our most famous visitor that's come aboard over the years. Because there was a coronation tour of Australia back in that year, and we were very fortunate to have a visit from the Queen Mother aboard one of the Popeye barges that were in operation back in those days. You'll notice that she's seated at the back of the barge on a special platform that was set up for her visit. Then a second boat trailed along behind with a band. So it was obviously a huge thrill for the owners to have her on board just under 71 years ago now, back in March 1954. Also up on the right are the 2 festival theatre buildings. The theatres are the home to the arts and theatre scene here in town. They celebrated their 50th anniversary back in 2023. They're very busy at the moment because the Adelaide Festival is on here in town. And then we've got Elder Park in front of us on the right. well known here locally for hosting many food and wine festivals throughout the year, the carols by candlelight and the New Year's Eve fireworks display. The park is named after Sir Thomas Elder, an early Adelaide businessman, founder of Elder's Pastoral Company, one of Australia's oldest businesses. He was a very generous man, Sir Thomas Elder. He donated the rotunda you can see up there at the park that was brought out from Glasgow in Scotland back in 1882. You may be wondering what's happening on the left-hand side here. It's generally a waterfall here on the left. Unfortunately, it's not operating at the moment. That is because they are building a flying fox that is going across the river. That's actually the finishing point there. It starts up here on the right-hand side and they fly straight across the river. That is going to be put in place as part of the Gather Round weekend, which is a round of the AFL football that's all played here in Adelaide. That's happening in about a month's time. So they're just starting to set that up at the moment. We have also got 5 little boats here in the water on the right. They are meant to represent the early settler transportation out to the colony of South Australia, obviously by boat or by ship back in those days. And the writing on those boats are diary extracts from some of those early settlers. We've got the King William Street Bridge in front of us here, and that is King William Street that runs all the way through the middle of town, obviously named after King William, who was the King of England when Adelaide was settled back in the 1830s. But it was actually his wife that is better remembered here in town. That's because King William's wife's name was Adelaide, Queen Adelaide. There has been a bridge here since the 1850s. This one was completed about 1930. We have Jolly's Boathouse Restaurant over on the right there. Then coming into view in front of us is the Adelaide University footbridge that was built back in 1937. Now that was the finishing point for that swimming race that I mentioned in the first photo that began all the way back at the rear, over 2 kilometres away. That race was swum annually until the late 1960s. The footbridge is also the subject of the next photo that we're going to pass around now. So to give you some background of this photo, the first week of the Adelaide University year here locally is called Orientation Week or O Week. It's also sometimes called Prosh Week or Prank Week, where students traditionally play pranks. Back in 1971, when the photo was taken, a bunch of engineering students got their hands on an old FJ Holden and got the vehicle down on the riverbanks in front of us here on the right-hand side, where they proceeded to tie the car up with ropes and pulleys. Then they somehow managed to manhandle the car all the way out to the middle of the river where those 2 people are there, and left the vehicle suspended from the bridge. Quite amazing. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to hear that they were past engineering, those students. I certainly couldn't have done any of that. You may also not be surprised to hear that the car ended up in the water. where apparently it stayed for several months until the council finally dealt with it. So quite an amazing prank played back in 1971. So as we turn around up here, we get a nice view of the oldest bridge here on the Torrens. Many locals refer to it as the Zoo Bridge because it's right next door to the zoo, which is up there on the right. But the real name for this bridge in front of us here is the Albert Bridge. It's named after Prince Albert, who was Queen Victoria's husband. The bridge was built back in 1879. For large sections which were purpose-built and shipped out from the UK, apparently at a cost of £9,000. So there's a lovely old bridge up there, the Albert Bridge. We have some nice terrace gardens on either side of the Torrens in this area. They're called the Grundy Gardens. They were built back in the 1940s and 50s and named after an early Adelaide council member. You've also probably noticed the walking and jogging tracks on either side of the Torrens as we've gone along this afternoon. They're very popular here in town. They're called the linear park tracks. They extend the whole length of the Torrens from the foothills back behind us all the way down to the coast, some 34 kilometres. So we have begun our trip back to Elder Park, and we'll have you back there in 10 or 11 minutes' time. back in 2009. What happened back in that year is there was an accidental draining of most of the water here in the Torrens. The weir that we visited a bit earlier had a technical problem, and the gates were left open for an extended period of time. Most of the water drained out of the Torrens, which meant that Popeye couldn't operate for the best part of a month until the water was replenished. At the same time, when the level did drop, a car was located in the water that you'll see on the other side of the sheet, back up near Pinky's flat. No one had known it was there until the water level dropped. Thankfully, there was no one in the vehicle, and they were able to extract them at the time. So that all happened back in 2009. I'm actually told the lake was quite regularly drained for cleaning back in the early days. That was especially important back then because it was also a source of drinking water back then in the early days. That's no longer the case. St Peter's College boat shed on the left, and then up on the left beyond the ute parked up there, that small building with the Spanish style arches there is the original water police station here on the Torrens that was built back in 1928. And those council vehicles are all parked there because apparently these days it's the council workers' lunchroom. So that's what's happening. Then up through the trees on the right, you get a glimpse of the spires of St Peter's Cathedral up there in North Adelaide. A lovely cathedral built back in the 1870s. You may be aware that Adelaide is often referred to as the city of churches. Also up on the right there, that monument you can see is to the Angus family, who were one of the founding families here in Adelaide. So we've nearly got you back to Elder Park, everyone. Just a reminder that Popeye is available for private functions. We also do high teas, gin cruises and wine tastings here on the Torrens, and during the Adelaide Cruise Festival we do have some specialty cruises. So if you're interested in any of those things, just go online to thepopeye.com.au for more information. So after we tie off at Elder Park in a few moments' time, you can leave us through to the front or the rear doors. If you are going to hop off the front, please be mindful of the hydraulic strut that holds the door open at the front here. It is a bit oily, so best not to grip that. Of course, we only use olive oil here on Popeye. Had to mention you somewhere. So thanks once again for joining us this afternoon. If you are visiting town, I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you once again for coming.